And, folks, we are beginning to wind down on this discussion of intelligent design and evolution. And hopefully this has provoked your thinking a little bit. If you are one who believes in evolution, and again, I do, and in terms of microevolution, and I want to be very emphatic on that, because when you say you believe in evolution, a picture generally is conjured up. And in my mind, it's the wrong picture. The evolution that I'm talking about is scripturally based, that God said, let these specific species bring forth after their kind. And I think that that's entirely feasible, it's entirely provable, but when you look at macro evolution, we don't see proof of that. You know, and we I don't want to get back into that because I'll get lost in it. Let's look at going forward now. If in fact evolution were the basis. Now again, we're talking about the intelligence of a rock. That is the basis of where we are and who we are and how we got here. What implications does that have for the human race? Because there is no design, there is no organization, so to speak. We just are. Bob, what would be where do we go? I mean, what would that mean for the human race?
To go back to Velikovsky, Ages in Chaos, the world would have very little hope, I think, for coming through this. For example, what's happened in the last century? We realize that through the millennia, there were many, many, many horrific experiences caused by human beings, as in Julius's monkey analogy and poem. But in fact, the people who have lived in this last century, perhaps we could say since the days of Darwin, and with perhaps less of an ethic or a conscience, have even done more damage with society than have been done in the past, because they have the tools for it now, the technology. It is reported by such people as Brzezinski, who was a former White House advisor, as well as others, that the number of people who were killed by governments and so forth throughout the 20th century, it comes out to something like 175 to 185 million people. These are not just natural deaths. These are caused by the intrusion into the lives of people by governments. And if we think that mankind is going to be able to pull itself out of this kind of a trap by its own bootstraps, I think we have a long way to go. And if it is a matter of just chance that we're here, and there is no plan, so to speak, by the designer, then we're in a lot of trouble. We know that there are those people who have different religious views on this that would end the world in different ways. Some end it with a terrible time where nobody makes it except their friends and their fellow believers. And there's others who believe that in the long range, after maybe a couple more thousand years, everybody who is supposed to be saved will be saved. And there's others who believe that there's going to be an enormous conversion of the world eventually. Our own perspective is quite different. We believe that perhaps we are living in end times that are marked by we are living in end times that are marked by the events and the things we see, return of the nation of Israel and so forth. And these are all pre-designed and stated in the Bible. Read Ezekiel, going to bring back a nation from the dead. Israel came back, Ezekiel 37. And if we read further in the scriptures, there's much more hope offered, because as believers in Jesus Christ, we recognize that the plan concludes with his church and him blessing the world, healing the world.
Okay, now, so you've covered both ends, and basically, if evolution were the process, then there's no ultimate design, and therefore there is no ultimate meaning to life except for the survival of the fittest, perhaps. There's no ultimate foundation for ethics. There's no free will, because you're all part of just a random set of events. If you have intelligent design, and again, we want to separate the science from the religion, if you will. Intelligent design scientifically, I think, is very, very, to me, it's obvious. Scientifically, it's obvious. However, science won't look at intelligent design and look at the future. And that's where we pick up the scriptures, because the scriptures are built upon intelligent design, and they call it God. And that's what we believe in, God, the creator. And as you said, that he as God not only had a plan for the design and the getting us here and up and running, so to speak, but has a plan for the future as well. And folks, I don't know about you, but I like the idea of being involved in the situation where there's an end result that has got a good, strong ending. It reminds me, Jonathan, on page 7 there's scripture at the top, Isaiah 46.
That's the one I want to read.
Okay, I saw you looking at one.
Verses 9 and 10. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is no one like me, declaring the end from the beginning and from ancient times, things not yet done, saying, my purpose shall stand, and I will fulfill my intention.
Okay, and so it's God is giving us a perspective, scripture that says, I have an intention, the purpose with which I set out for is going to happen, and I'm going to get that done. Now, we do have a call on the line. It's going to have to be relatively quick.
Okay, welcome to Christian Questions. This is Jonathan and Rick. Who are we speaking with?
Peter. I'll make it brief.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Peter.
Okay, I still am waiting to find out which came first, the chicken or the
egg.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and even if it was intelligent aliens, where the heck did they come from?
Good point.
All right.
I agree with that question.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, Peter.
and it's a point well taken, and folks, when you look at the whole picture, and we've got to begin our wrap up, if you will, and you look back through the process of how we got here, there is absolutely an organization in the smallest of cells and in the vastness of the universe. And that cannot be denied. Organization implies design. It implies intelligence. Let's look at that intelligence moving forward. And again, this is now not from a scientific standpoint, but this is from a biblical prophetic standpoint. And Bob, however you want to put it, looking forward and looking at the Creator's grand design. We've spent a lot of time on what we've seen. What's to come?
To look forward, it's good to look back. In this case, I think a very succinct point is that if we read the first 3 chapters of the Bible, we see not the descent of man, but the fall of man. In the last 3 chapters of the Bible, we see his being picked up, not by his own bootstraps, as even many religions suggest, but by God. Mankind's lived under 6,000 years of sin and death, plus a few more, chronologically speaking. And if we look at what has happened, man has been faced with an adversary. I'll call the adversary the devil. You can use various names in the scriptures.